everyone, and welcome to the Morning After Recap Show presented by IrishSportsDaily.com. I am Greg Flammang. We're here again in the morning after Notre Dame's 49-7 victory against Stanford. Really good football game, really good performance from the Notre Dame football team. The offense especially, I think a lot of people saw what they wanted to see from the passing game. Not everyone saw what they wanted to see, right? Specifically from like Mitchell Evans, something like that. There wasn't as many touches for Jeremiah Love, although he did make the most of them. He had a 39-yard touchdown run, which is bad for the prop from the happy hour show. We've got a 40-plus yard runs prop. It was over under 7.5. Jeremiah Love rips off a 39-yarder. We need one more yard there to hit the over on that. So that hurts my feelings. But the rest of that is it looked good on offense. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about snap counts, whatever comes up in the chat, whatever people want to discuss. We will speak on that as always. That's how we do things on this show. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. If you like what you hear, please hit the like. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell so you know wherever it is we are live. Links to the podcast are in the description below. As always, the show is brought to you by ESQ Clothing. Holiday season is approaching fast. ESQ has you covered for all your parties and gifting. As you know, ESQ is founded by Notre Dame alum Ge Wang. You've seen it on all your favorite Notre Dame players and coaches. He's got over a decade of making the best custom clothing available. ESQ will help you look and feel your best, from a perfect fitting suit or sport coat, shirt or bomber jacket, or the perfect tuxedo for galas and holiday events. Check out Ge's amazing work at esqclothing.com and book an appointment to upgrade your wardrobe today. Mention ISD and get 10% off your entire purchase. Give yourself and your loved ones the gift of style. Rajon says, thank you, Greg, for doing this each week. Of course. It's my job. I will do it. I will do it happily. Jason Z is excited about the Guardians, the Cleveland Guardians. Advance at Notre Dame wins. Good Saturday. Who cares about the Browns? I don't care about the Browns. Congratulations to Tyler Wojak, his Guardians. He was very nervous about that. I know. I feel badly for my OFD friends, Brendan and Josh. They're Detroit Tiger fans. So, pour one out for those guys. That's unfortunate. But Jude's Mets are up against my Dodgers, so that's going to be interesting. That's going to be an interesting thing this week for us. Let's talk about the game. I think, and I've just posted the tweet. So since the interception against NIU, because I've been thinking about this, and I've kind of talked to Jamie about this. Riley Leonard hasn't really looked like that guy, right, since the interception. I think people saw the interception in that game specifically as kind of like a harbinger of like, this isn't going to work out at all. Since the interception, Riley Leonard is 60 of 86 passing, 70%, 658 yards, 7.7 yards per attempt, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. He's also running the ball well, right? So 326 yards, 7 touchdowns on the ground. So accounting for 13 touchdowns on his own in the 4 games since Northern Illinois. And I asked Jamie this on the show yesterday, and I'm kind of curious to get the thoughts in the chat and people watching on replay. If they want to put a comment on this video, that would be great. If we need to change our priors in the way that we think about the Notre Dame football team throwing the ball as an offense. Yesterday was the first time, I think, this season Notre Dame's average depth of target went over 10 yards. They were at 11 yards average depth of target yesterday. Notre Dame was pushing the ball down the field while also being precision passing game, right? And I think that was part of the reason why I was so kind of encouraged by how Riley Leonard threw the ball yesterday. When you're doing RPOs and you're throwing the slants into bodies, right? There are people coming. Stanford sending blitzes. There are people around the middle of the field. He's got to be precise on those, right? You got to be precise on the slants. There's safeties coming over. If you hold it too long, if you throw it to the wrong shoulder, if you hit him in the wrong spot, that can lead to interceptions, right? And just incompletions, right? Slant passes have to be precise, just by definition. He hit those. right? He had a really good football game throwing the ball. Riley Leonard did. He was precise on those. Didn't have anything that was ugly. He missed the out route at the before his rushing touchdown. He had an RPO out route. It's a long throw, but he can make it. He needs to make that throw. But beyond that, there wasn't just the ugliness that we saw from Riley Leonard, or that we'd seen previously, especially against NIU, and a little bit against Texas A&M. That's gone away. Do we need to adjust our priors on Riley Leonard and the quarterback position in Notre Dame's offense? It's something to keep in mind. I'm curious have how people feel about that. Chris Wall says, would be great if Jeremiah Love was featured more, but with a quarterback who has the skill set of Riley Leonard, he's going to be the feature of the offense, too dangerous not to be. Yeah, I mean, he's snapping him the ball. On the Jeremiah Love piece, he did get more snaps than Jadarian Price did. I think it might have been just the RPO thing that Jamie talked about yesterday. Watching the game initially, I thought, well, you're not going to give him the ball. Like you're handing the ball to Jadarian Price, but you're not handing Jeremiah Love. And it's not like we have a problem with Jadarian Price getting carries. Like, he's a good running back. He showed that yesterday. He had a nice touchdown run. But like, let's feature Jeremiah Love, But again, Stanford's sending a lot of blitzes. Notre Dame was running RPO off that, right? Notre Dame had a plan for that, a specific plan for that. Notre Dame was 13 of 15 throwing yesterday against the blitz, 189 yards and 3 touchdowns, right? So if Jeremiah Love's in the game for that, the ball's coming out. Notre Dame is successful on those plays. You can't really hate on that. You can't really hate on success in situations where you could give it to the running back, but they're sending numbers, and so you pull it, you throw it. So that's good process, good planning. Yes, Envy Irish says Wagner has scored a touchdown every single time he touches the ball, yet he has been completely ignored the last few games. Notre Dame is not a serious offense. Tongue in cheek, Pat Coogan. People are all on the Pat Coogan. 11 yards per attempt for Pat Coogan, 1 of 1. Denbrock's got to scheme some stuff up for those guys. So yeah, that's a good point. Josh Miller says Jalen Snead having trouble getting on the field. That's a true fact. So he had 14 snaps in this game, and he was in the fourth quarter when most of the starters were not. So that is a true good observation, right? On defense, nobody played more than 50 snaps. Xavier Watts played 50 exactly. After the kind of the core DBs, right? So Watts, Morrison, Gray, Clark, they all played between 50 and 45 snaps. Adon Schuler played 38 snaps. So those are your core 50 snaps is what Notre Dame's defense accrued pre-fourth quarter, right? Essentially, the starters. So you've got, let's just go to the linebacker position here. We've got Jack Kaiser with 35 snaps. We've got KVA with 27, Jaden Osbury with 27, Drake Bowen with 26, right? So Kaiser, Osbury, KVA, Bowen between 35 and 26 snaps. Jalen Snead at 14 snaps. And I think the majority of those are coming on like in the fourth quarter there, right? So there's been something, right? There's been something going on with that. I mean, we don't even, it's like we're monitoring. Everyone's monitoring at all times. I mean, we got Rod Hurd with 20, Gabe Rubio with 21 snaps. That's big, right? That's very important for Notre Dame. RJ Oben, 23, Donovan Heinisch, 23, and on and on. Josh Burnham with 27 good snaps too from Josh Burnham. So that's very encouraging for Notre Dame there. Envy Irish says, has ISD heard anything about the Stanford series getting renewed? I enjoy the games, and it is one of the only ones on the West Coasters can get to easily. I feel like that is if Notre Dame plays Stanford as part of the ACC schedule, then that's one thing. I feel like they are going to put them in when they aren't on the ACC schedule. I think I heard that. I'll ask, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I think I plan that Notre Dame's going to play Stanford every year. That's my um, that's my assumption. That's my understanding as well. Rajon says, "How many plays did Stanford run?" Um, it's kind of hard. Let me see. Hold on. It's kind of hard because there's like the pre fourth quarter and post fourth quarter kind of thing. Let's see. It has them down for 62 snaps. So not that many. You got to feel like, so I feel like maybe 12 in the fourth quarter, 12 snaps for them in the fourth. Not that many. Like, let's see how many Ashton Daniels. Well, he came out too, so that's not a good gauge. Alec Aomenor played 48. So that's kind of where it's at. The starting O line about 52, it looks like. So that's the snap count you're looking at. There. Tyler Borgman says, let's go, StreamYard, bring it up. Here we go. Who are the other top defenses in the country? Are there other defenses that are college football playoff contenders with similar defenses to Notre Dame? I was looking at this earlier. Let me pull this up on my phone. So BYU is one. I know that. I know Texas is one. The Texas got a good little program over there. You may have noticed. I mean, top defenses. Let's just look. I was looking at passer rating too. Like Iowa State, really good defense that they've got. Let's just look at total defense, I guess. Let's see. I mean, I could check like some of the advanced metrics, like Texas, Tennessee, Mississippi. These are just yards per play allowed. Ohio State, Nebraska, Indiana, BYU, Washington. Those are the top 10 with Notre Dame at 4. Right. So Notre Dame's 4th in yards per play allowed. Those are kind of that's kind of where it's at, right? Army's 14th. Just looking at some future opponents here. Yeah. So Army, let's see. Army 14. Is anyone else on here that Notre Dame plays? Not in the top, I guess, 38. Let's see where Navy's at. Let's go to the bottom here. Let's see where Navy is in this metric. Produce 126th in yards per play allowed. That's not going to get it done. No. Stanford was 106th. USC 94th. Yeah, it's like there was so much fluff about DeAnton Lynn. Bruce Feldman said that DeAnton Lynn was the most important hire in college football, like coordinator hire. It's 94th in yards per play allowed. Florida State is 93rd. Good gracious. Navy is 77th. So that's not a good defense that Navy's got there. 5.6 yards per play allowed. So those are some of the other teams. Notre Dame's had a top defense now for 2 years. I mean, their passer rating against is 5th in the nation, but the actual number is better than it was last year when they led the nation, right? So it's just their defense has been top notch, especially in the pass game for the last 2 seasons. It's I mean, for me personally, it's great to watch. I love watching them coordinate. You know, it was funny. Like, so we got some tape on Stanford, the Stanford Syracuse game. So we were watching some of that. And, you know, I only really study film of Notre Dame and the way that they play. So I'm used to seeing them in all 22 situations and just analyzing their play and the way that they go about their business. And we got some Stanford tape. So it was Stanford against Syracuse, and I'm watching Stanford's offense play against Syracuse's defense, and just the contrast of the quality of play that Notre Dame has versus another team is kind of striking. It's just like, man, what are these mistakes you guys are making? It's like, oh, you know, they're running this. Oh, okay. like he's going to fill here and he's going to fit here. And it's like, why aren't they doing it? Like, I'm just not used to watching tape of a defense that just doesn't play the caliber of defense the way that Notre Dame does. So obviously it's a treat for Notre Dame fans to be able to watch them week after week. Let's see. Envy Irish says, I was keeping an eye on Bryce Young yesterday. He seemed to hold his own, didn't have any loud misses. Kid is on a rocket ship trajectory. I love the loud misses on there. I love that. That's a Greg staple. Yeah, he played good, and he played a lot of snaps as well. Let me just switch over to Notre Dame here. He was up there in terms of total snaps. That there might be some fourth quarter snaps in there, which is why he pushes. Bryce Young 39 snaps, so most of any defensive end. He played the same amount of snaps as Howard Cross, right? More snaps than Riley Mills. So he's to the point. He is on a rocket ship trajectory. That's good stuff there. Evan, thanks for being here, Evan. The offense improving every single week is so refreshing. We shall see next weekend in Atlanta if it can continue. Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think the fact that it's gotten better, right? The passing game especially got better yesterday. The offense is improving in terms of we're not seeing the ugly play anymore. We're not seeing the ugliness. Even the broken drives against Louisville, it was, they kind of just make mistakes, right? So like on the opening drive in this game, Riley Leonard's running for a big gain, and Anthony Knapp gets called for holding. It's one of those calls that you could call it and you could also not call it, right? Like sometimes you see it and sometimes you don't. He definitely grabbed him. I thought he kind of let go in a good amount of time. Didn't really prevent the end from getting to him. Riley Leonard had just gotten around the corner without the help, but they threw the flag. That's the kind of thing that's hurting Notre Dame, is the penalties and getting behind the sticks, which, causes them to have empty drives. But beyond that, like if they're not doing that, like if that didn't happen yesterday, Notre Dame was moving the ball, right? I mean, James Randall, I think, had the one punt, which was obviously not good, but he had the one punt, right? If Notre Dame wasn't shooting itself in the foot, they were going to be moving the ball very efficiently. Stanford's not a good defense, right? So it's something that needed to happen, but it did happen, right? And you have to give credit to that, and you move on, right? Georgia Tech is no great shakes as a defensive team, right? So, I mean, we saw North Carolina move the ball on them quite effectively yesterday. So Notre Dame should be able to do some things against North Carolina going forward. I'm sorry, against Georgia Tech. They should be able to do things against Navy. Navy does not have a very good defense, right? So the next couple games here should be a good test for Notre Dame to continue to build on the things that they did yesterday. We have to be very happy about the trajectory, right? We have to be able to say, like, hey, it's gotten a lot better, right? It's definitely not where it was, and that's a good thing for Notre Dame. It was the area of the team that they had the most growth, right? That most areas for growth, the most, the kind of the most room to grow, I guess. So, and we've seen it. So you got to give credit to that. Steve Hogan says, great show, Greg. How good is Georgia Tech's defense? Steve and Jen. Hello, Steve and Jen. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Georgia Tech's defense is not great. Let's see. We'll just look at total defense in terms of yards per play allowed. Georgia at 55. That's not going to get it done. Not good job by you. Georgia Tech is 73rd. So I believe they give it up in the passing game, similar to Stanford, similar to a lot of teams, really. I think they're better against the run, but the thing is like Stanford's better against the run too, right? And Notre Dame ran the ball effectively against Stanford, but they just threw the ball so well that it just kind of doesn't matter, right? Like if you can throw it on them like that, you can hit them for big plays. They handled crossing routes against Louisville as bad as I've seen a team handle them. I mean, Louisville completely eviscerated them in the crossing route game, right? And so that is a situation there that Notre Dame should be able to take advantage of, just confusing them, right? Notre Dame does like to run crossing routes. Um, Notre Dame should be able to eat against that defense for Georgia Tech. So it's a good question. Thanks, Steve. Sergio says, is Army the best team left on the schedule? USC will be the toughest spot to win in. However, we're monitoring Virginia. Virginia, I believe they beat Louisville yesterday, and I think they're 5-1 now. So they might be pretty good, right? I think Virginia is the type of team that Notre Dame should just be able to handle simply because the style of play that they have. Like Army, I don't know if they're the best team, but they might be the best combination of they play in a way that is a vulnerability to Notre Dame in terms of their running game, and they might have the best defense left on the schedule. And so that is kind of the formula, right? You're able to drain clock and be efficient on offense. And then if you can limit Notre Dame's offense, then get some empty possessions from them. You get up to a lead or whatever it might be, keep the game close like that. That is the Louisville won the game. Oh, well, I mean, that's good for Louisville, I guess, to them. All right, so maybe we're not monitoring Virginia. I thought they won. I thought they were in position to win. Well, it's probably so then, okay, let's revisit. Sergio, is Army the best team left on the schedule? I don't know that they're the best team. So just go back to it. I don't think they're the best team. They might be the best matchup in terms of the toughest matchup, I should say, because of the way that they play, because of the way that Notre Dame has the vulnerability. I think they're probably the toughest matchup left. But that's where I would come out on that. But again, Notre Dame and LA. Here's the thing about the Notre Dame and LA thing, right? And we're seeing this across college football. Is everyone is talking about, East Coast going to West Coast and the travel. Suddenly, the travel is this huge talking point. Notre Dame has been doing this forever. They have been doing this since forever. Like I said, they're always going back and forth. Notre Dame is always flying across the country. And everyone dismisses it when it's just Notre Dame. But when it's the beloved Big Ten, and suddenly Penn State has to, fly to LA. And it's like you haven't left your cocoon all year. Penn State has not gone anywhere all season. They have to take one trip to the West Coast and play at 3:30 on their body clock. And people are like, oh, this is crazy. How do you do it? Like Notre Dame's doing this all the time. So I don't want to. But the point is that because Notre Dame's been doing that all the time, like when they go to LA at the end of the year, that's another thing. They're tired already. Then you're going to LA. And USC is a team that hasn't been doing that this year. USC's got to fly to Maryland soon, right? They got to take another cross country trip. Not just that, but USC is now 3-3. The vibes not great. The vibes are not good. Their defense is not what they thought it would be. The offense is not what they thought it would be. And now you've lost the third game. It wouldn't shock me if they lost another game. Right? You've got Washington coming up. You've got Rutgers. You've got Nebraska. These are teams that, listen, they'll hit you. They'll hit you hard, right? You got to be ready for that. And it's not that USC isn't. It's just like that takes a toll. You got to go to Maryland. Maryland's not good, but you're flying across the country, playing in a weird place, right? So, I think a lot of the variables that go into why Notre Dame struggles in LA, they're mitigated a bit. They're definitely mitigated a bit. So we're monitoring USC. We're keeping an eye on what USC's got going on. CFB Hertz. Where's this? CFB Hertz. Sorry to miss the post-game show. Was on the road home from the game. Listen, first of all, I'm glad you got to go to the game, CFB. You put the post game on the drive home. Put the post game on the drive home, CFB Hurts. Come on. We got to be better than that. We're hitting and we're hustling. We're hitting and hustling. CFB Hurts. One thing I wanted to mention, seeing Notre Dame live, Christian Gray plays with swagger. He does. That's a true fact. He's got the juice. He's very confident, as you need to be as a corner. It's definitely true. CFB Hurts. Any other observations that you have from the game? We'll throw them in the chat. Good stuff. Good stuff. Nick Dean. This Georgia Tech game has him nervous. Anyone else? I think the running, look, they ran the ball really well against North Carolina, right? Now, look, Notre Dame has shown vulnerable against the run, but not like that, right? Not like you're not giving up a ton of explosives or anything like that. Like they've given up like a 28-yard run here, right? That's not going to get it done. Let's see how many big explosive runs Notre Dame's given up, because I don't think it's that many. And it's kind of similar to the Riley Leonard, where since the NIU game, it hasn't really looked like that, right? Like Louisville ran the ball well, but the Notre Dame was very concerned about their passing game, right? So they kind of focused on that a little bit. But I mean, I think it's nothing, right? Let's look. Here we go. Opponent long rushing plays, 20 plus yards. Notre Dame hasn't given up any. Army hasn't given up one run of 20 plus yards. That's pretty wild, actually. Dude, Army's got a good defense. Where's Notre Dame here? Oh my goodness. Notre Dame 41st in 20 plus yards. But nothing beyond that, right? They've given up one 30 plus yard run all season. So they're not getting gashed like Georgia Tech was gashing North Carolina yesterday. But Haynes King, that we're also keeping an eye on Haynes King, that he didn't really run yesterday. Jamie said he got hurt during the game, came back, but didn't really throw. So that's tough. We gotta check out Haynes King a little bit, see where he's at. CFB Hurts says other observation is that Leonard needs to get more mustard on the deep passes. Yeah, I'm gonna go back and look. I think especially on the one to Collins, like I think he's on his back foot, and he kind of, I don't want to say short-armed it, but he didn't put all of it into it because I think he was afraid he was going to get hit. It seemed like he was close to getting hit there. So he's kind of leaning backwards. But that's a fair take. Jason Warnock says every game has him nervous because you don't know what you're getting with Notre Dame. I mean, you can't hate on that comment, right? Like Notre Dame has played really well. Like this is the thing with Marcus Freeman, right? Like we do have to. It's a true show me situation, right? We have to see that you can do this consistently, right? And Tim O'Malley's been really big on this for Irish Illustrated. He's been big on this point. Marcus Freeman has not handled success well. And I think that Notre Dame on a 4-game winning streak, played well on offense. You had a nice win against Louisville. Notre Dame's had success, right? Can they sustain it? Can they sustain the success and the good play and continue to build off of what they've been doing in the last 4 games? It's like, I don't begrudge any person who is skeptical of it, who just says, you got to show me before I truly believe in it, right? Because we've seen it, right? We've seen just a drop in play for no reason at all. I think it's good that Notre Dame's going on the road, though. I think that's a good it's good for their psyche. It's good for their preparation. It's good for, wanting to avoid kind of a letdown. Because, look, it's not like Georgia Tech's going to be like a lion's den on that front. Nick Dean has a theory. The non-use of Jeremiah Love. They're keeping him fresh for later in the year in the playoffs. Maybe. I mean, I think the way the game played out, I think they got to keep a lot of people fresh, just in the way that the game went. Like they weren't going to insert any starters at that point. They were going to play the backups. And look, Notre Dame's got good backups too. That's another thing that we got to do. But yeah, I mean, he doesn't have a ton of snaps right now. If you just look at Jeremiah Love's just total snap count for the season, it's just not that. He doesn't have that much wear and tear on his body, right? He doesn't have that many carries. Like if you consider how if you consider like he's got 93 snaps on the season. He hasn't even played 100 snaps, Jeremiah Love. Can that be right? Is this just rushing? Let me see total offense here. Offense. That can't be right. There we go. All right. 170. That was just rushing. So just rushing plays. He's got 93 snaps. 173 total snaps on the season through 6 games for Jeremiah Love. Let's do some quick math on that. 173 divided by 6. but 29 snaps a game for Jeremiah Love. Like his body should be fresh. He should not have a lot of wear and tear on those tires for Jeremiah Love. Should be fresh. So that we'll monitor that. We'll monitor that, Nick. Yeah, people are excited about the Jeremiah Love. Rajon says, seems to me Notre Dame doesn't trust JD Price's blocking. What do you think? I agree with that. They definitely don't, because they don't have him in on third down ever. So I think that's astute. And they like to when do they have Jadarian Price in there? When they run the quarterback counter stuff, and Jeremiah Love's leading up on the touchdown, right? Jeremiah Love threw a great block on that. So Ben Tarnowski, thanks for being here, Ben. We have to have the deepest running back room in the country. I'm convinced Kedron Young would start or at least be in the rotation for most Power 5 schools. Power 4 schools, that changed. Yeah, I don't know. I don't follow any other team. This is what I'll say. Yesterday, Kedron Young led the team with 5 missed tackles forced in 7 carries. So he's getting it done, right? He's getting it done on that front, right? Making people miss in at the end of the game situation. Like I said, 7 attempts for 39 yards, 5.6 a carry. Obviously against with your backup offensive line and things of that nature. He looks good. I mean, Aeneas Williams looked good on his touchdown run, right? So he's shown a lot. I like Notre Dame's got good young backs. 100%. They've got good young backs here. We do need a big board of all the things that I'm monitoring. You got to keep an eye on stuff. You always got to have your eye. You got to be head on a swivel with things. Sergio says, time for Kedron Young short yardage set. Defenders bounce off him. He's always falling forward for more yards. Yeah, I mean, look, it's something to be excited about for the future, right? I mean, we talk a lot about, Jeremiah Love, get him more touches. Jadarian Price, get him more touches. Well, if you're giving Kedron Young touches, you're not giving them touches, especially in a game that matters, right? We want those guys in the game. But Notre Dame's got a good running quarterback as well. So that's something to keep an eye on. Is Price's blocking issue mostly want to, in your opinion? I mean, look, there are some things that some players are just not as good at naturally, right? He's not the first running back who's like not great in pass blocking or run blocking or whatever it may be. I think another part of it too is it's kind of like with Mitchell Evans, right? Like when you have an injury like Jadarian Price had, you're only really going to get used when they want to give you the ball. When you're coming back from something like that, like you're trying to just get your body right. And you're just not working on the little things like that. Now, to be fair, it is something that he needs to work on himself. You want to be a top back. If you want to be a top back, then you got to be a complete back. And Dylan McCullough has said this. You got to be a complete guy. You can't just be a runner. If you're just a runner, you're not going to get in the game as much, and that's been the problem for Jadarian Price. I do think there's a reason for it, but I I don't want to say want to, because that's putting on like he doesn't care or something. It has kind of a negative connotation. It's just something that he needs to spend a little bit more time on if he wants to get on the field. Nick Dean says, I would prefer we use Riley's running ability as a final option. I don't know. He's a good runner, man. It makes it difficult. I mean, yesterday, like, they didn't have to run him that much, but like Notre Dame's really good in short yardage because of Riley Leonard, right? Like he makes it so, he makes it tough. It just makes it very difficult. I mean, I don't think it should be the final option or whatever. There are moments when it's like you just tuck Riley Leonard and let him plow ahead, right? He's an explosive player. I mean, we saw it on the run that got called back for holding. We saw it on another one where they had receivers open. I believe it was Jaden Thomas. Looked like he was going to come open on a crosser, but the pressure came. Leonard had no chance to get it to him. He scrambles away. He almost ran for 20. I mean, he almost ran for a touchdown. So that's something to monitor too, or like keep in mind. Like, he's very dangerous as a runner. Drink some water real quick. Throat getting dry there. Nick Dean, another question. Has anyone heard anything more about the CJ Carr injury? No, I don't think there's anything to hear. He got hit in practice. It sounds like he's a scout team quarterback. It sounded like there was a live period there, because why would he get hit if they're not going live? And it sounds like he got hit. It doesn't sound like it's a big deal. It didn't seem like a big deal to me, right? Just like at the game. Like I said, I noticed he wasn't throwing. He didn't have any sort of elbow sleeve. He didn't have any sort of brace. He didn't have anything. It was just, he was dressed. They dressed him, right? It's not like they didn't dress him. He was out there doing everything. So, I mean, not doing everything, obviously. He was out there. When the early outs went out, he was there. When it was time to warm up, he was there. They're dressing him. So it can't be that bad. I don't know that there's like much to hear. CFB Hertz asks, did it look to you like Freeman or Denbrock told Leonard to just give the ball on some of the early options? It looked to me like he would have had room to run if he kept it on a few of those. There was no indication from the coaches or anything on the TV copy that they wanted him to give it. I think sometimes Riley Leonard is in between what he wants to do sometimes. Just because if you watch him throughout the year, he'll have reactions after he gives the ball like, I messed that up, right? At least in his mind. I don't know if he actually did, according to the coaches. RPOs and when to give and when not to is very difficult to analyze, because to your point, we don't know what the coaching is. We don't know the alerts that they have. We don't know what the situations are that they're telling him, we want you to give the ball. So I try not to. I've done this in the past, and I've kind of gotten in trouble with it in the past. I try not to analyze, or maybe not analyze, but give criticism to this should have been a give, this should have been a pull, right? I don't want to do that because, again, I don't know what they're telling him. But sometimes, like he did a thing where he handed off to Jadarian Price, and he like pointed. Like he pointed straight ahead. I don't know if he was pointing at like to himself, like, oh, you had this space, but then Jadarian Price like almost broke it, right? He almost broke through. Like he got through the line and he almost ran for a touchdown, but he got tackled by his shoelaces. So I don't know what to make of that, right? I don't know what he's doing, but it's just something he's kind of done all year. He's very demonstrative, right? And he's the kind of person, like in the post game, in the press conference at the Louisville game, like he'll just say whatever he's thinking, and sometimes what he's thinking is kind of like loosey goosey type stuff, It's like when he makes the quote, like, yeah, I want Denbrock to call the plays that I like. like the plays that I'm comfortable with, you know. He says that a lot. And it's like, okay, like, sometimes you'd be a little bit more I guess diplomatic in your answer, but he just kind of shoots from the hip when it comes to those things. So I don't know. This is something about his personality. Um, Tyler Borgman asks, how would you rank Notre Dame's offense in relationship to the level needed to compete in the college football playoff? Say our offense needs to be a 7 or higher to be successful. Where is Notre Dame currently? So here's the thing. It's hard to kind of answer this, right? Like, okay, I guess I would say they're a 6 then. Just generally speaking, right? In a vacuum, I don't think they are where it needs to be. They are not a 7. Like they are not where it needs to be. Just like eye test and just philosophically what you want your offense to be. Now, this is without like getting into like putting it into a game situation. I'll explain what that I mean by that in a second. But like I'm trying to like picture like if you watched Ohio State and Oregon last night, think about the level of offense that it would have taken to play and win in that game for both teams, right? Like it just seems to me that Notre Dame is not at the level of either of those offenses in terms of execution level, in terms of just the ability. Like Notre Dame's offensive line in that game, like it kind of scares me, right? Just generally. I don't know that they can consistently push the ball. I don't know that they can. Okay. I don't know that Anthony Knapp can hold up. I don't know that Rocco Spindler and Pat Coogan can hold up against some of these defenses with like really good defensive fronts. Like that Oregon defensive front, that old Ohio State defensive front, those are real dudes. Texas's off defensive front, those are some real teams. And Texas has a very good defense like Notre Dame does. So it's just they're not there, right? I do not believe that they are there. That being said, it's just hard to score against Notre Dame's defense, right? Like we talk about, and I've done this. I do this. We talk about Notre Dame's offense in a vacuum and in just the broader scope of college football and what you want offense to be, right? So I talk about it in those terms. But then before every game, I ask myself, can Notre Dame score 4 touchdowns against anybody, especially anyone that they play? The answer to me is yes. They can absolutely score 4 touchdowns. Can anyone that they play score more than 3 touchdowns, score more than 2 touchdowns? I don't know. Right? I don't know. Like, I don't think so. I can't go into any game and be like, Navy's definitely scoring more than 3 touchdowns against Notre Dame. Army's definitely scoring 3 touchdowns against Notre Dame. I can't say that. And so if I think Notre Dame can score 4 against anyone, and I don't think anyone can score more than 3, why would I ever pick Notre Dame to lose? Right? And so, look, I think Texas could absolutely score more than 3, right? I think Oregon, I think Ohio State, those teams can definitely score more than 3. I don't know about Ole Miss. I don't know about Tennessee right now. I don't know that Tennessee can. I mean, Alabama, they definitely could, but they're struggle busing right now. I mean, Alabama, they got some stuff to figure out, right? So I think some of these teams that we're thinking about, they've got some flaws defensively. Like Ohio State's DBs made some mistakes yesterday that I was like, man, I can't. Notre Dame does not make mistakes like this. Like jumping to the wrong shoulder, like their technique is not good, right? It's like Ben Morrison doesn't make that mistake. Christian Gray doesn't make that mistake, right? Like so, when I think about Notre Dame and I think about their offense, I think, no, they're not good enough. But then I think in a game situation with their defense in the way that the defense can set up the offense, it changes my thinking a little bit. So we gotta keep an eye on that, right? We gotta be mindful of that. But I think the offense has shown enough inconsistency to where they can drop a game that they shouldn't. And obviously that's what happened against NIU, right? NIU scored 1 touchdown and won the game. And that's not what you want. That's not how you want to do your business as an offense. You want to do good business though. And if you've got a media company that does good business, and you have a chance to choose a media company that does good business, then you want to do that with VSR Media, founded by Notre Dame football pregame host and Emmy award-winning anchor Vahid Sadrazadeh. VSR Media provides professional and cinematic video and photo. Whether you're looking for a collegiate or pro-level highlight reel, have a personal story to tell, or are aiming to diversify and grow your business, VSR Media specializes in short and long-form video storytelling, social media management, and website design. VSR Media also captures professional headshots, senior, and sports photos. Contact them at vsrmediacompany.com. Mention Irish Sports Daily to receive 20% off your first project. Visit them online or give them a call at 574-800-9106. This thing. Oh man, Chris Waltz, Cole Kmet touchdown. I saw he's having a good season. Cole Kmet's he's becoming like a really good pro, really good football player. So that's nice to see. Let's see. Tyler says, your current remarks, Greg, are exactly why I'm still excited about the season. The defense gives Notre Dame a chance, and the offense just needs to keep improving. They also seem to play better versus teams. Also seem to play better versus good teams, I think is what you meant to say. Yeah, I mean, I think there is a lot to. I think there is a lot to be excited about with Notre Dame. I mean, they played 6 games. I think now we have a chance to see what Notre Dame can be. Like we're getting closer to the ceiling of what it could have been with Riley Leonard. We're approaching that. And I think earlier in the year, it was hard to see it. It was hard to see that they can approach the kind of the outward tail of the bell curve in terms of positive outcomes, right? And it was just like, what is Notre Dame doing here? What's going on? Like, what are we even hoping for? And now we're starting to see it, right? We're seeing the accuracy, 70% in the last 4 games. Or 72% or whatever it was. If you're completing your percentage of that, and not just that, but they're the types of throws that they're precision throws, right? You're asking for a precision type of passing game, and he's doing it. So if we're seeing that, if we're seeing suddenly they're throwing the ball over the top, right? Notre Dame's got an 11-yard average depth of target in this game, right? You still got the running game. You still got the explosives in the running game. You have a defense that doesn't give up points. 84 yards passing for Stanford in a game where they had to chase, there's just Notre Dame doesn't give up points. The offense is coming around. They're becoming more explosive. They're getting used to their players. I mean, Chris Mitchell, right? And here's the other part. They still haven't really activated Mitchell Evans, right? They haven't gotten him involved yet. And so it's just, that is the part where you start to think, like, what can the team be? And this is why, as well, people who just looked at the NIU game and just said, Notre Dame can't be a playoff team because of this. And I said, and everybody said, give me a break. Like, if they go win the rest of their games, the NIU game is obviously just an aberration, a fluke, right? You are what you are over the course of a season, right? You're going to tell me that, given everything that we've seen from Notre Dame in the past 6 games, that they beat Texas A&M on the road. This is one of the bigger wins of the season. one of the best wins of the season right now. Notre Dame going to Texas A&M and winning. You're beating Louisville. If you can knock off the service academies, if you win in LA, right? Like everyone's so excited about Penn State winning this game against USC. If Penn State gets a ton of credit for beating USC, then Notre Dame ought to get credit for beating USC, especially on the road, right? Especially with the travel, right? They got to focus on that. Like if Notre Dame keeps improving, you always have a chance to show people we are a playoff team and that they can get to the point where people want to see them in the playoffs. They need to see Notre Dame in the playoffs because they're showing that they're a good football team, good football program, right? So that's kind of where it is there. Alakino. Anybody still think Lincoln Riley a better coach than Freeman? Awful clock management. Listen. Excuse me. Had to take another sip of water. Listen. If Marcus Freeman had pulled those shenanigans at the end of a game that literally cost Notre Dame a game, it's his third season, people would be rightly up in arms. An absolute debacle from a coach who has been doing this. What is this season? Is this 8th season, 9th, 10th season as a head coach? You don't know how to handle. You're an offensive coach. You let that happen. That is so bad. That is so ridiculously bad. And it cost his team a game. He contributed to their defeat. And like, this is the sort of thing that happens across college football. And I've been saying it for like 2 or 3 years. Like everyone pins, everyone pins any bad thing that happens to Notre Dame and Marcus Williams. Well, first-time head coach. This is what you get first-time guy. Lincoln Riley doesn't know how to manage the clock. He doesn't know how to manage the clock. I mean, we've got Kalen DeBoer just getting completely bamboozled against Vanderbilt, right? No, look, Vanderbilt's having a good season. They're a nice team, okay? But like you got the best players in the country all over the place. Like Kalen DeBoer, not first-time head coach, right? He has a letdown game. His team gives up 40 points to Vanderbilt. Again, Vanderbilt won yesterday. They didn't score 40. They didn't just run up and down the field against their opponent. That's not what happened. So, listen, coaches, especially in college football, they don't do a great job. They all make mistakes. They all do. And you got to give grace to that. Jason Z didn't see what happened. So basically, USC had the ball around midfield on 1st and 10 with timeouts, and I think it was 1:50 on the clock, and they ran 3 plays. And the third play occurred with 14 seconds left, and it was an interception. They had 3 timeouts left. 3 timeouts. They ran 3 plays with 14 seconds left. In regulation, yes. Apollo 27 says in regulation, yeah. An absolute debacle. They threw an interception. They didn't have time. They didn't really give themselves a chance. They tried to throw it downfield at the end to get in field goal range. They didn't. Got intercepted, and then Penn State got the ball back, and then they lost in overtime. He contributed to them losing, right? The same way that it's the same way that like Brian Kelly contributes to his team losing sometimes, right? It's the same kind of deal. So yeah, I mean Ryan Day kind of messed that up yesterday, right? Like we see Ryan Day make mistakes, in these situations. Longtime head coach, right? Contributing to them losing, right? So there's just a lot of problems with coaching at the end of the games. Yeah, I mean, if Moss makes the last throw, it's a different story. Yeah, but you're basically, you could have gotten the ball all the way down the field. You're counting on like a 40+ yard field goal attempt, which is obviously not a given since the guy missed it in overtime. So, it's just we got to give grace to sometimes to Marcus Freeman. I mean, you can criticize. It's not a question of criticism. It's just like other coaches do it all the time. Jason Z says, did you see Florida and LSU comebacks where they didn't go for two to win? What's the thoughts when you go versus not? Florida should have gone for two. I'm a big, look, it's team specific, right? Like coaches, it's their team. They know their team. They know their 2-point plays. They know where things are at. Generally speaking, I'm a big go for two guy. I like, look, it kind of depends on if I go for two and I get it. Am I like going to win? Am I guaranteed to win the game? Basically, like if you're going two and go for two and there's like a minute left and they have time to go try to kick a field goal, then I'll just try to tie it, right? Because they play differently if they're down and they have to go try to get points. Whereas if the game is tied, then they're just going to use three. It's not going to be as aggressive. So like you do have to factor that in. Generally speaking, if I'm going to go for two and that's going to end win the game, I want to go for it. I want to go for two. I like just having my offense say I have one play, 3 yards to end the game, and I want to take that on. I'm a big fan of that. Ge Bank 5 says Florida definitely should have. Napier is a dead man walking with their schedule coming up. He has nothing to lose. Yeah, like just go for it because you're doing the aggressive thing, right? Is if you're going to get fired anyway, like go out there being aggressive and trying to win instead of hoping that you have because you are like, look, let's face it, Tennessee's better than you. Like don't give Tennessee a whole bunch of more downs to show that they're better. Just you have one play. And they just got stunned at the end. Like they just got stunned by this throw by Lagway. So then you have all of like they're down and you're up. Take that momentum and just move it forward for the rest of the game. That's what I would have done. That's what I would have done. Lincoln Davey. That's funny. Nothing as bad as Bob Davey, though. Nothing is worse than that. Nothing is worse than the Purdue game in 99. For people who don't know, Notre Dame had the ball at like the 3 or the 2. I don't know what down it was. It wasn't 4th down or anything, but they had time, but they didn't have timeouts. And they rolled out Jarius Jackson. They were in like a full house backfield type thing. They rolled out Jarius Jackson. He takes a terrible sack. He loses like 15 yards and the clock is running. And so I think he wants to spike it, but then Notre Dame changed personnel groupings during that time, which they didn't have time for. They wanted to get wide receivers on the field. So they didn't have time for that. I think Jarius Jackson snapped the ball to try to spike it, A, after the clock expired, and B, with about 15 players on the field for Notre Dame. So, and they lost by 4 points. They had the ball on like the 2-yard line or the 3-yard line or something. So, yeah. Vision Poet says Jarius Jackson would own this era, especially. Yeah, he would have been good. He would have been good. He would have been a good player to have. Yeah, Ole Miss, they spit the bit as well. Not great. Not great. All right, we're going to end it there. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. If you like what you heard, please hit the like button. Please hit subscribe. please hit the notification bell soon, whatever it is. We're going to go live. Links to the show are going to be in the description below. Jamie and I will be back on Tuesday talking about the game, previewing Georgia Tech, and whatever news has come up, right? So it's going to be a fun week. Have a good rest of your day, everyone. It's Sunday. Enjoy the NFL games. Hey, what do? Keep hitting and hustling.